We all have our own needs in our daily life, so we make surprisingly complex decisions all the time. But the last time you bought something, I bet you never stopped to ask yourself, what stage of decision making process am I in now? Of course you didn't. No one in the right mind would do that. Everything from window shopping to comparing to purchasing, everything happens unconsciously. So, regardless of if you're a company or a marketer or even someone looking to meet another person, knowing the decision making process of the consumer is vital. So, you know how effective your influence can be on the consumer or this other person. Many researchers and academics have all agreed that there are many stages to the purchasing theory. And over the years, they've come up with many theories, but the one that is still most commonly used is the one that was proposed in 1983. And what's special about this particular model or theory is that it focuses on the factors motivating the user to make the purchase. So it helps us in understanding the why behind what is being purchased. So the first stage in our consumer decision making process is actually recognizing that there is a problem. And this further leads to desire and need to solve this problem. So as an example, let's consider a fictional character called Stella. And she has an old car which keeps breaking down in the middle of the road, and frankly she's embarrassed and tired of driving this car around. So the problem that she has recognized is that her car is not reliable, and she feels this strong need to solve this problem. So once this need or desire is activated within a person, there's a constant state of tension that has to be eliminated. So the consumer will take every necessary step to reduce this tension. So you can see why this stage is very important, because it defines how compelled a consumer is to go through the rest of the stages within the decision making process. The stronger this tension, the higher is the driving force or the motivation to achieve our goals. And this motivation, as suggested by Sigmund Freud, might not be even fully understood consciously by the person or the consumer. So, going back to the example we were looking at, Stella might choose to buy a new car which is expensive, but at a deeper level, she might be motivated to impress others by buying this new car. Or at an even deeper level, she might even do it to feel independent. Another theory to understand human needs and motivations is the famous Maslow's theory of human motivation, or the hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory is so powerful that it can be a video on its own. But to bring you all up to speed, Maslow divided human needs into various hierarchies and broadly classified them as basic needs and growth needs. And the idea here is that humans tend to satisfy the basic needs first before moving up to satisfy the growth needs. It is also important to note that not all behaviors are motivated by a desire to approach a goal. Consumers may very well be motivated to avoid a negative outcome. So, in our example, Stella's deepest desire might be to avoid the feeling of the negative emotion that she feels when her car breaks down in the middle of the road. So, the next stage in the consumer decision making process is called the information search stage. And this stage is all about searching and researching about the product that the consumer believes will get them to their goal. When facing a purchase situation, consumers normally look at two sources for information, and these sources can be broadly classified as internal and external sources. Internal sources are all the memories within the mind of the consumer, such as past experiences, knowledge about the product, and so on. And when there's no sufficient knowledge or past experiences within the mind, then the consumer start looking at external sources, which can be online search, friends' opinions, reviews, and so on. So let's look at our example, Stella. She may look into her internal information sources such as past experiences to decide on the color or the size of the car. And because she has no knowledge about the latest cars on the market, she may look at online reviews, online search, or even visiting a dealership. So, how long would this information search stage last? Well, research has found that personal factors such as ability, self-confidence, education and income has a positive relationship on the amount of information searched. So if a person believes that he or she has the ability to search for more information, then he or she will search for more information. So the next stage is evaluating alternatives. Before deciding on a product to buy, a consumer has to decide what makes a product good or bad. So this stage happens in conjunction with the previous stage of information searching, which we saw earlier. So this stage is very important in the whole consumer decision making process and is also the stage where marketers put a lot of effort into, as we will see why shortly. A criteria by which a product can be evaluated can be both tangible and intangible. For example, Stella might evaluate a car based on tangibles such as presence of a satellite navigation or a compact car for city driving and good fuel efficiency. Or she may base her evaluations based on intangibles such as a car's brand reputation or a car that is fun to drive. Another criteria may be in the form of expected benefits, which can either be hedonic or utilitarian. Utilitarian benefits are closer to necessities rather than luxuries. So, in our example, Stella might choose a car which serves the basic necessity of driving her from point A to point B. Hedonic benefits, also labeled as luxuries, can pertain to aesthetics or experiential benefits, which can be either emotional responses or sensory pleasure. So, in our example, Stella might choose a car which is from a famous car brand manufacturer or is a convertible or a sports car. During the evaluation stage, attitudes also get formed, and this reflects how a consumer likes or dislikes something. And these attitudes can be broadly classified into two: beliefs and evaluations, which are what a consumer thinks is important and unimportant. So, how will marketers have their influence here? Marketers can change the attitudes of the consumers by either changing the beliefs or the evaluation. Changing the beliefs is relatively easier as they are objective facts. So if a marketer knows what beliefs needs changing, then they can just present new factual information which can be straightforward. Changing the evaluations, on the other hand, is much more difficult, especially with experienced consumers than novice consumers, because experienced consumers already have a good idea of what is important and unimportant. The next stage in our consumer decision making process is the making purchase stage. Let's imagine Stella has searched and evaluated a car she would like to purchase. Now what? Well, you guessed it. This stage is all about making that purchasing decision. The consumer has evaluated all the alternatives by gathering as much information as possible, and has made a final decision. Most of the purchases can be divided into two: planned purchase or impulse purchase, and both these can happen in store or online. In the past, online research was often linked with online purchases, but more recent studies in 2018 shows that almost 82% of smartphone users consult their phones just when they're about to make that purchase in store, and they mostly read the reviews just when they make the purchase. So going all the way back to when the consumer had identified a problem, we saw that there was a constant state of tension, and this tension grew stronger and stronger if the consumer found themselves further away from their ideal situation. So, for example, if Stella was living and working in the city, then the tension she experiences here when her car breaks down might not be that big, because she could always take a public transport or cycle or even walk. But imagine if she was working remotely and it took her around 45 minutes to get to work and her only mode of transport was her car. In this instance, the experience of her tension is much higher because her only mode of transport is a car, and she is more likely to make a purchase of a new car. The final stage in the decision making process is post purchase evaluation, and this is also a stage which is mostly ignored by a few companies because the money transaction is already complete. A consumer goes through various physical and mental evaluation when they go through a purchase stage, and they start evaluating their decisions and start questioning all the wisdom that led them to make that purchase. The current purchase also has effects on all the future purchases as well, because the current purchase broadens the set of experiences stored in the mind of the consumer. So, following on with our example of Stella, after she made her purchase of a previous car, which is now broken, Stella realized how much she needed satellite navigation in her car. This was her post purchase evaluation of her previous car, which is now stored as an experience in her mind. So, this time around, Stella wants a car with satellite navigation. Most of the space in this stage is also occupied by the satisfaction and dissatisfaction of the consumer. The satisfaction is an evaluation of how adequately the consumer is rewarded for the sacrifice that he or she made, and in this case, the sacrifice being the act of paying money. The level of satisfaction also depends on many factors. For example, higher education is associated with lower satisfaction, and men tend to be more satisfied with their purchases than women. Older consumers tend to be more satisfied because of overall reduced expectation, and people who are more satisfied with their lives tend to be more satisfied with their purchases as well. And it goes without saying that consumers who are more satisfied with their purchases tend to repeat purchase with the same seller, leave reviews, or even recommend the products to friends and family. So there we have it. Those were all the stages within the consumer purchase making decision. And if you were in any way satisfied with watching this video, then I would love to hear from you. So leave a comment, subscribe to this channel, and watch out for more videos from us.